Alright, it's time for my non-spoiler review of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. As a general disclaimer, you can agree to disagree. Maybe you loved it, maybe you hated it, maybe I loved it or hated it. Whatever the case, let's have a respectful conversation about it. There is a certain metaphor floating around out there that MCU is kind of like a factory, how it produces product after product after product with very little care and attention to it. I'm not saying that applies to all of them, but something can be said about the fact that we are getting a shit ton of MCU films and television shows. It kind of feels like an MCU Marvel factory within Disney. And I'm sorry to say it, but Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, say that title 5 times fast by the way, it honestly feels like a lackluster product produced by the MCU factory. But I want to touch upon my highlights first. There were some good things about this movie. I loved Jonathan Majors. He was an amazing villain, antagonist, super charismatic, super fucking hot. Another highlight was Michelle Pfeiffer. Now they completely shortchanged her in this role in previous installments. They do not make that mistake here. She may be an MVP of this movie. And I have to say that probably the majority of the jokes actually landed for me in this movie. There were definitely a lot of laugh out loud moments that actually, warranted me laughing out loud. Unlike Thor: Love and Thunder, which felt like it was doing joke after joke after joke after fucking joke, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania at least interjected humor at times where it felt more appropriate and more earned. Generally speaking, not all the time. But those are essentially the only highlights for me because, guys, I'm sorry, but this movie just did not work. It felt like a CGI fest. I know that, this movie was shot on the volume. You can tell. There are movies with fully fledged CGI worlds and environments that I feel are real, that I feel transported in. It did not feel that way for this movie. Also, there were several plot developments that happened for the sake of it to happen to move the story over here. There were also plot elements interjected to be like, hey, look at this over here. And I'm like, the fuck is this? For example, if we thought Thor: Love and Thunder did not take itself seriously, where you often wonder, is this whole thing a joke? Did they not give a shit about presenting anything with a slouch of dignity? But psych, here comes MODOK into Quantumania saying, hold my fucking beer. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Wow. Also, the biggest issue I have is that this film just feels like a launch pad for Phase 5. It doesn't feel like any kind of conclusion to a presumed Ant-Man trilogy. I know it's a third one. I don't know if we'll get more, but if this is their final installment, then I feel bad for Ant-Man. It's like the MCU just needed a movie to set up what Phase 5 is going to be all about, and Ant-Man drew the short straw. It completely sacrificed good character development, high stakes, or any emotional depth to make you care about this outing with the Ant-Man characters. It's not the worst MCU film. It definitely had its moments, and I am excited for Jonathan Majors, but it's a far cry from the best. I'm going to give Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania a C-. That's just my opinion. You can agree to disagree, and that's just fine. If you loved it, I'm so glad you did. But if I'm watching it again, I need to get drunk first. Ugh, fucking MODOK.